Every evening after work, we tell ourselves the same story. I'll just put on one episode to recharge. I'll just play a few rounds to clear my head. I'll just watch a few videos for inspiration. And then I'll start creating. But 3 hours later, we're still on the couch. We're still playing one more round. We're still going down that rabbit hole chasing inspiration. Somehow more tired than when we got home. And I know this feeling all too well because I spent 10 years living this exact reality, coming home from my exhausting job as a creative director and telling myself that tonight would be different, that I'd finally start my project, build my product, and launch my channel. But the problem I was facing, and let me know if you empathize with this in the comments, is that all of the advice out there was telling me I had to completely change my evening routine and habits to somehow go from sliding backwards to immediately pushing a boulder uphill, to go from binge watching episodes on a couch to somehow becoming a disciplined content machine. The momentum swing was just too big, and it felt like I was trying to slam my car from reverse into sixth gear without even stopping first. It's no wonder we stall out trying to force these massive changes. But if you found yourself stuck in this same loop or never quite finding that one quote or piece of motivation that actually gets you moving, let me propose a different route forward in this video that worked for me in 3 simple steps. And they're steps that didn't solve everything, but they were fundamental in getting me the momentum I needed to grow my 100K audience and to launch my business in just my evenings and weekends. The biggest shift I had was when I discovered that the problem wasn't what I was doing in my evenings. The problem was how I was doing it, which means that this first step might surprise you, but I want you to keep watching those shows and playing those games as your wind down activities, or to continue watching those inspiration and motivational and strategy videos as you research and prepare. But instead of doing this aimlessly, we're going to simply put up some guardrails so that they align with where you want to go. For example, my goal was, and still is, to tell stories and create worlds in the sci-fi genre, games, novels, movies, all of it eventually. And if you've seen Future Familiar, you know that that's my end goal. So my first step to start winning back my evenings when I was first starting out was that I didn't stop gaming or watching shows. I just limited myself to only sci-fi story-driven games and sci-fi series. Even during life maintenance stuff like cleaning or doing laundry, which eats up so much of our evenings, I switched from random podcasts to digital art podcasts and sci-fi audiobooks. I even created a second Instagram and YouTube to only subscribe and follow targeted accounts and types of content, which makes it even easier to stay within these guardrails because the only content I'm being recommended is aspirational for my art and storytelling, or are useful examples and information for this YouTube channel. You can adapt this approach to whatever your goal is. If you want to be a filmmaker, silo your Netflix time to only films in your genre. Or if you're a game developer, focus your gaming sessions only on the specific types of games that you want to make. If you're an artist, spend time browsing art that inspires you and that you can use as fuel for your own creations. And do as I did, where you create a second Instagram account and only follow artists that should be influencing your work. If you want to be a YouTuber, watch only the 3 to 5 creators that you most want to emulate. Again, second channel or account and stay logged in there, and be conscious of what you click on to keep your recommendations aligned with your direction. And lastly, if you want to build a business, get a list of docs and videos or podcasts lined up from entrepreneurs that you admire. But the key to making this work is that while we've narrowed and guided the direction of our procrastination, we only get permission for one, not one more. And that might mean one long-form YouTube video or one episode, or for things that are harder to count, up to 1 hour, and there's no negotiations and no extra time. The limitation here is just as important as that direction. But while you don't get one more, the next step in this process is that you get one more time around. Immediately after you finish that first watch or playthrough, I want you to immediately do it again, but this time with an active purpose. So while you experienced it the first time, This round, it will become practice and material and data. Now, I go much deeper into this process in future fundamentals, but the truth is you could even just use a Google Doc in the beginning. Either way, to help you get started alongside this video, I prepared a free Notion template that you can grab from the description. It is designed to be universal, so you can tailor it to whatever it is that you're consuming or working towards creating. Once you grab that link and duplicate the template into your own Notion, what I want you to do is note down everything that matters to you or has impact during the second time through the content. Maybe it's the opening line of a hook of a YouTube video, the animation style of title slides, a metaphor or analogy that was used to explain a concept, or maybe it was a line of dialogue or how a scene was lit or a setup and payoff of a scene or interaction. The point here is to start recognizing and cataloging the moments that relate to whatever it is that you want to create or build in the future. So what this looks like in practice as you start to build out your database using this template is you'll first add a source. So that'll be an episode number or a podcast name or a video name. And then you'll set what type it is, so game, podcast, series, whatever it is. And if it's something you watched online, you can leave a URL here so you can find it again easier later. And then we'll go ahead and open up this main entry. And now that you have it open, you'll go through and add your notes one by one as you work your way through that second pass. And this really could be anything from basic information to a unique perspective or a scene that worked or a hook that grabbed you or a quote or a strategy, really anything that was impactful to you. And once you get those notes in there, what you want to do is to add some tags that are relevant to them so you can sort them or easily find them later. By going through this same hour of content again right after you first experienced it, you're transforming what would have been wasted time into invested time. You start building out this bank of knowledge and reference material that begins to evolve and refine your taste through taking the time to reflect and to articulate your thoughts about things that speak to you. And at the same time, you'll vastly speed up your workflow when you start producing, since you have actual notes that you can refer back to and not just vague memories. This approach helps me actually get moving in a much more realistic and seamless way than expecting myself to start changing all of my habits and life around, and it ultimately gave me the momentum I needed to start building something. Which brings us to step 3. And that third step is really quite simple in that we're going to do one thing with what we just collected right after that second viewing. You've consumed it, you've studied and cataloged it, and now you need to move from taking notes to taking action. But where most creators fall short here is that the gap between studying something and creating something feels too massive. So instead of trying to cross that gap in one leap, we're instead going to build a bridge. So for this video, I outlined 3 ways that we can do this. We can make a connection, we can make an extension, or we can make a conclusion. Making a connection is the easiest option. You literally just repeat the first 2 steps. Watch another episode, play another quest, check out another video in your niche. But this time, when you do that second viewing pass, you're instead going to start looking for patterns. How do different YouTube videos structure their hooks? What storytelling tricks keep showing up? What difference in importance do they place on opposing or similar strategies? If you're watching episodes back to back, what setups from earlier episodes are paying off now? What techniques or elements seem to be building, or do they seem to be leaning into or away from? Are they subverting or are they reinforcing your expectations that you experienced in the episode prior? On the other hand, if we go with that second route, making an extension means going one layer deeper into something that you've already studied. And maybe this means that you'll need to move from your TV or couch to your laptop or desk. But what you'll be doing is looking for some behind the scenes footage, or reading through art direction breakdowns, or watching creator commentaries about why they made specific choices, even digging into YouTube comments or reviews that seem to be getting a lot of traction. But don't just read them, start collecting them and adding your insights to your notes, and mark down how they expand or challenge what you first noticed when you were doing your second pass. With both of these first 2 options, you're still technically just watching more content, but you're doing something completely different from mindless consumption. You're mapping out how successful creators solve problems, and You're catching patterns in what audiences respond to. But really, over time, as you do this evening on evening, you're starting to build a foundation for your own creative voice. Which now brings us to that third option, which is making a conclusion. And we're still not trying to leap straight into writing a book or launching a channel or building a business. That gap is still much too wide. So instead, what we're going to do is take what you've learned and to create something small. Write a tweet thread breaking down that storytelling technique, or spend 15 minutes on a quick note on Substack connecting the ideas that you found. Or if you're more visual, open up Miro or PureRef and build a mood board that captures the aesthetic of the scene or level that you studied. Grab some reference images, pair them with some quotes from the behind the scenes insights, and just generally recreate the moment or experience that first caught your eye. But really, the intention here is that these 3 steps build on each other naturally. You start by doing exactly what you're already doing, watching those shows, playing those games, going down those YouTube rabbit holes of creator podcasts or motivation. But you've set up guardrails so that even when you're procrastinating, you're failing in the direction that you want to go. And that same hour that would have been wasted in prior evenings instead becomes an investment when you go through it again, building your own database of references and inspiration that you can refer back to. And finally, by following through with that third step, whether you're making connections or extensions or conclusions, you're starting to bridge that gap between consuming and starting to create. So rather than ending each evening more drained than when you first got home, you'll now be building momentum without needing to, from the very start, make massive lifestyle changes or to give up your downtime. And instead, you can just make a few small shifts that pivot those same activities from sliding backwards to moving a bit further forward, one evening at a time. If you found this helpful, make sure to grab that free Notion template in the description that I put together for you, and to check out this video next, where I build on these ideas that will help you take your creator business to the next level. And as always, thank you for being here, and I'll catch you in the next one.